Greetings, good people. Yes, I have an unpopular opinion and some perspectives on this matter of the Tory Lanez and Megan Thee Stallion case that's food for thought and that might urge you to think about this situation in a different light. If you are a Meg Thee Stallion fan, you might want to stop listening right now. This is an unfortunate case because it involved 3 fairly young Black people. They're grown. They're all over 21, but they're 30 years of age and under. So that's still fairly young. Got involved in a situation that did not have to happen. Their behaviors got them in this situation that could have been avoided. It started because back in 2020, Meg Thee Stallion said that Tory Lanez shot her in the feet. And instead of getting sympathy from people, she was blamed. What did you do? I mean, the reaction was very unexpected because if someone gets shot, you would think that the public reaction would be, oh my goodness, he should be brought to justice. But in her case, it was an immediate almost defense of the young man, Tory Lanez. Well, now the case went to trial. Nobody took a plea deal, probably like they should have. And the jury found him guilty on all charges, which are felonies, which carry stiff penalties and long prison sentences. For some reason, Tory Lanez decided not to address the court or to testify on his own behalf. Now I'm wondering, as a lot of people are, if that was a big mistake. In the times that we're living in, you're not really building a case based on logic. You are building a case based on public opinion and for the jurors. As January 6th has taught us, and that whole fiasco at the Capitol, people are illogical. Common sense is not common. So I think some of the jurors probably thought his refusal to speak was an admission of guilt, meaning, oh, he must feel guilty. That's why he doesn't want to say anything, because he thinks he might perjure himself or he might slip and say something that was not brought out in the case that might incriminate him. But sometimes the lawyers will say, oh, you don't need to speak because this is a slam dunk case. You don't need to testify because the evidence is shoddy. We have created a reasonable doubt that perhaps the best friend shot at Meg Thee Stallion and not you, so you don't have to speak. So there are 2 sides to that. But if Tory had said, I'm so sorry, this situation got out of hand. Yes, this happened, but if he had done that, maybe taken responsibility for what he did do, but make very clear what he did not do, then perhaps he might have had a different outcome, but we will never know that because he did not testify on his own behalf. So people are split on the reactions because a lot of fans of Meg Thee Stallion are saying, good, she got justice. And a lot of people who are not fans of hers are saying the exact opposite, like she is to blame for sending yet another Black man to jail. I am one who thinks that this sentence is unfair, that the verdict was unfair, because he should not have to shoulder the complete blame for what happened in that situation and what happened in that car on that night when they were all a little drunk and all acting stupid and all acting like high school kids who are in arrested development who just never grew up. Facts came out in the trial that were being withheld by all 3 parties, the former best friend, Meg Thee Stallion, and Tory Lanez. When the case first broke, none of them were forthcoming with what happened. So it left a lot of gaps in their stories. I had a feeling when this story first broke that Meg Thee Stallion was not completely innocent. And lo and behold, she was not. She was withholding information. She was dodgy. She was getting, on television and all these interviews, just blaming Tory Lanez and not taking accountability for what she herself did. But in this trial, it all came out. She got on Gayle King and said, oh, no, she and Tory were just friends. Okay, he was a friend that shot you in the foot for no apparent reason because, again, she was leaving facts out of the story. And even Gayle King was like, really? You were just friends. So it came out in a trial that Meg Thee Stallion had slept with Tory Lanez, although she knew that her friend girl was in a relationship with Tory Lanez and was also sleeping with him. These two girls got into a drunken cat fight. Allegedly, Meg Thee Stallion was drunk and got thrown out of Kylie Jenner's party, which initiated this chain of unfortunate events that led to a fight in the car with her best friend over this little guy, this small little guy, Tory Lanez, because somehow it was discovered that they had both been sleeping with him, blah, 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 blah. All this came out in the trial. Did the best friend shoot at the girl too? Or was it only Tory Lanez that shot at the girl, right? That shot at Meg Thee Stallion. All of them were complicit in their own ways. None of them had clean hands in this situation. Meg Thee Stallion did not have clean hands. Therefore, I could not receive her as a black female victim because she was not a victim. She did some really ridiculous, silly stuff that unfortunately has gotten this young man in the justice system where he's probably going to receive an unfortunate amount of time in prison because of stuff she did that she should have avoided. Yes. All black women are not victims. Some black women just do stupid stuff that come with dire consequences. So she is free, the best friend is free, but Tory Lanez is facing up to 22 years in prison. I don't think it's fair that he is the only one facing jail time, especially with such a stiff sentence. So now Meg Thee Stallion pushed and pushed and pushed for this trial and pushed for him to get jail time, but nobody is really seeing this as a victory because on a lot of levels it is not. Because now another black man is in the system for a situation where he was not the only guilty party. You have to understand that this is not empowering for black women at all. Meg Thee Stallion's over-sexualization of herself, of her music, all of the cursing, all of the nastiness that she has built a career on, the WAP with Cardi B, all of that is setting black women back years and years and years back to slavery time because they don't teach people black history in schools anymore. So students, let me tell you this. Go back and look up Hottentot Venus. Go back and look up all of the ways that black women were raped and abused during slavery time, but not just during slavery time. Basically all times, but particularly during slavery and Jim Crow. Black women were thought of as being breeders, as less than human, just animals who had no real feelings. Therefore, they could be raped and raped and raped and raped and had sex with and mutilated all over their bodies because they couldn't feel it anyway. Because black women are so strong, they don't feel pain, and you can just do whatever you want to with them, especially sexually, and they can just take it. You have someone, Meg Thee Stallion, who is a big, thick girl, and who glories in that, and who makes money off of that. And in this sex-positive society, that's supposed to be empowering for young black women. Well, there was a time, and there still is a time, where big, thick black women like that were pounded on. Pounded, pounded, pounded on. So those thoughts and ideas that were impressed upon black women are still with us today. So when you get out licking out your tongue and showing your tatas and you got your butt all out and you think this is sexy, this is cute, you are missing the history of the perceptions of Black women and why this is not a good thing. The world as it is does not want to create any more Michelle Obamas. They do not want to create respectable Black women, and unfortunately, they are doing a good job at it. Too many generations of girls have been looking at love and hip hop, and this is how they dress, this is how they act, this is how they sound. But in the real world, you get treated a certain way. You get humiliated in court systems and in power systems, in the welfare office. When you're trying to have a baby, you get humiliated and violated in hospitals. And so here you are with building an entire career off of your sexual self when Black women in the real world are suffering and are being abused sexually, thrown into sex trafficking, more sexual abuse. But then there is a segment of the population who idolizes these young women who set themselves up in such sexual ways. It comes with a price tag. The ability for Meg Thee Stallion and Cardi B to display themselves in this particular way and make money off of it came with a lot of pain, a lot of bloodshed, a lot of torn up bodies, a lot of torn vaginas and rectums of Black women. Oh, you can stop listening right now because I'm saying it because it is true. She is not a victim in this case. Instead of being able to settle this had to play out in a court system where Tory Lanez has already been put in jail. He was immediately remanded and has to stay in jail until January, 27th, until he is finally sentenced. So outside of the courtroom, and inside of the courtroom, his father and his family, were very vocal about how unfortunate this was. The evidence in the case was just all spotty and ridiculous. The way that they presented it made us think that surely the jury would not find him guilty. But they did. And it was a shocker to Tory Lanez and his family and to his defense team. At the kitchen table, and that's a metaphor for when you're talking with your friends and family, I said that unfortunately, Megan Thee Stallion's career is going to take a big hit. It already took a hit. But now her career is going to take a nosedive because the people she is relying on to buy her records and to be her producers and to work with her in the community and the music and in the record label community are probably going to be very hesitant to work with her from this point forward. She's trouble. She has caused trouble to somebody else in the hip hop community. Nobody wants to deal with trouble, right? So you have to realize these who have the opinion that you should be able to express yourself however you want and be able to be your authentic self and do this and that, you have to exhibit self-control. You have to exhibit some class. You have to do the right thing in public and outside of public. And a lot of young people are finding out the hard way that when it comes to money and businesses and deals, that there are still things called morality clauses. People who are shoving millions of dollars in your pockets do not want to be associated with this sort of thing, with a trial like this, where she was not completely innocent. So at the kitchen table, a family member of mine who has been incarcerated had this theory related to Trump's First Step Act of 2018, which allowed first-time offenders, nonviolent offenders to get out of jail early, basically, because some of his friends were in jail. People from the Whitewater Clinton era were still in jail. So some people Trump had associations with were able to get out of jail early because of that enactment. Well, my family member believes, because they were incarcerated, that since so many people were let out of the prison system, that the powers that be are trying to collect more bodies to put into prison and are giving longer and longer prison sentences so that they get paid hand over fist money for being involved in the prison slavery system, and us taxpayers have to pay for every prisoner that they send to the system. So the powers that be need bodies in prison to continue making the amount of money that they have been making. And now Biden wants to decriminalize marijuana so that people who were over-sentenced for first-time marijuana crimes are going to be released in droves. And so once again, if this makes it past, the Republicans are trying so hard to block this. But if it passes, if marijuana is decriminalized at the federal level, then a lot more bodies are going to be released from the prison system. And so that, again, means less money for the powers that be who are involved in this system. There are a lot of entertainers who are invested in this system. Some who have made very illustrious careers in the rap game, who have invested money in the prison system because it is lucrative. Black and brown people with money to invest, have a little stocks, have some options, however they do it, in the prison system because it pays so well. So unfortunately, Tory Lanez has gotten caught up in the juxtaposition of all of this, what Trump did in 2018, what Biden is trying to do right now as far as releasing more bodies out of the prison system. So unfortunately, he might get more jail time than he typically might have, being a low-level celebrity in years past. But those days are over. Listen, the Chrisleys are going to jail. People are going to jail left and right for white-collar fraud charges. Back in the day, they would have gotten a slap on the wrist and maybe no more than 18 months and they would have been free. Now they're getting 9 years, 12 years, 20-something years for wire fraud. They need more bodies in prisons. They need more bodies in jails. And so now once you get into this system, your loved ones are facing more lengthier sentences because the powers that be are intent on keeping this prison system running and lucrative for 1% of the population who are rich enough to invest in prisons and jails. So it's not a win. This isn't really justice for Black women. It is not justice for Black people. Whatever Meg Thee Stallion thought was going to happen as a result of getting a guilty verdict is not going to happen. It's going to be the exact opposite. Yes, she got hurt. It was unfortunate that she was intentionally shot at. Yes, the girl and the boy should have been punished in some way. But the way this has played out, it is not a good look for our people and not for Black women. So that's my 2 cents. Somebody had to share this unpopular opinion. It was not all Tory Lanez's fault. He should not shoulder all of the blame. He should not be so severely punished, whereas the young ladies are not receiving any punishment. So no, we do not condone violence, but this was a situation where 3 people were being stupid and ridiculous, and it got out of hand. And this is how it has snowballed and gone very badly. So Tory Lanez's father had a right to be upset when he said that certain people are bartering and trading the souls of Black and brown young men. That is true. There are Black and brown people who are invested in the prison system who don't mind putting other Black and brown people in prison because it makes them money. Their portfolios increase. Their financial portfolios increase every time somebody goes to prison, anytime somebody gets jail time. So he was not wrong. And so many people have been commenting, oh, well, it was Tory Lanez's fault and he should have acted better. He really should have. So it'll be interesting to see how much prison time he gets, how long the sentence will be. If you have sons, please tell your sons there are certain women that you need to stay away from. There are certain girls they do not need to date. Tell your young men to do better. Young ladies, it's almost a lost cause for young ladies because young Black girls, listen, I have taught for so many years, K through 12, particularly in colleges and universities. These young Black girls think they know it all. They see this behavior being rewarded on television over and over again. The fighting, the backbiting. It got a young woman killed in Mexico. This same sort of behavior got that young woman killed in Mexico. It is the spirit behind these actions, the violent words, the violent actions, the over-sexual behavior, the drinking, the alcohol that was consumed that led to erratic behavior, that led to this situation. All of this could have been avoided with some self-control, some common sense. You don't go to somebody's house party and act a nut to the point where you have to be put out. And you have done a song with Beyonce. You have won awards. People have praised you because of your music. I don't listen to it. I don't agree with all these lyrics and the curse and all that. But there are a whole lot of people who rallied around Meg Thee Stallion and gave her a certain level of career and notoriety that she would not have had. And now this is what it has come to. Do better, people. Do better.